Hi, this is Joe Gaydos from the SeaDoc Society, and today we're wading into the habitat of North America's most consequential mammal, not including us, of course. Here's a hint. Damn! Obviously, we're talking about beavers, our continent's largest rodent this side of Mickey Mouse, and the second largest on Earth. We think we know everything there is to know about beavers. They have big teeth, they have fat, funny tails, and they keep themselves very busy building dams. That's all true. Their gigantic front teeth are like natural chainsaws, and they use them to cut down trees like this alder for building material and for food. Doesn't look too appetizing, but to a beaver, this is breakfast. Not too bad. Probably very high in fiber. We usually picture beaver living along picturesque streams with their lodges set in tranquil ponds. But here in the Salish Sea, a researcher stumbled across a mysterious clan of super hardy beavers thriving in totally unexpected habitat. That discovery is rewriting what we know about this incredibly important animal and may help our efforts to save another of our keystone species. So we're gonna head out, see if we can find some of these buck-toothed tough guys and attempt a scientific first. But before that, I'm having another nibble. I wonder if beavers have to worry about splinters at both ends. Boom, boom. The rivers and streams of the Salish Sea watershed provide thousands of miles of potential beaver habitat. But as the rivers run into our inland sea, their freshwater flow becomes increasingly saline and it surges and falls under the influence of huge tides. No one would ever think to look for beaver here.
Like the foundation for
Greg Hood is a senior research scientist with the Skagit River System Cooperative. His specialty is estuarine vegetation. While doing fieldwork in a tidal shrub marsh near the mouth of the Skagit River, he kept noticing piles of sweetgale and other assorted sticks that didn't look like they'd been randomly tossed together by storms. He wondered if they might be beaver dams. Absolutely not, said the experts. Beavers do not like salty water, and it certainly wouldn't make any sense for them to build dams in places affected by 12-foot tides. Survival for your regular, run-of-the-mill North American beaver depends on finding the right sweetwater home site. Water is the prime necessity because beavers have the body shape of fuzzy double cheeseburgers. Their stubby legs weren't designed for running, but they live in a landscape filled with bears, wolves, bobcats, cougars, and coyotes, all smart, fast predators who love cheeseburgers. So beavers embraced the life aquatic and dove for the safety of the water. They evolved webbed back feet for swimming, that big rudder of a tail, warm waterproof fur, and special inner eyelids called nictitating membranes that act as built-in swim goggles. Since beavers swim their building materials to construction sites, they even evolved an extra set of lips that let them carry branches in their mouths without swallowing water. To chew on trees, beaver teeth went big. These intimidating choppers keep growing the beaver's entire life. To keep them machete sharp, they're softer on the back so that the other teeth can act like metal files. Up front, the teeth are coated in a super hard, acid-resistant enamel infused with iron. Yes, beavers are armed with steel-reinforced teeth. 4 out of 5 dentists agree that research into beaver incisors may one day lead to new treatments that can strengthen our teeth. And I could really use that now that I've started chomping on trees. Typical house hunting beavers look for a waterfront building site close to plenty of delicious, mostly deciduous trees. These lumbering lumberjacks then get to work on their dam. They weave a wooden frame and reinforce the upcurrent side with rocks and mud. Beavers will excavate dens in the stream bank as short-term rentals, but the main reason for the dam is to create a pond that will serve as moat for their other classic creation, the beaver lodge. While one of the 3 little pigs didn't have much luck with his house of sticks, beavers do much better against big bad wolves by adding an ingenious twist. The entrances to beaver lodges are underwater. This not only dissuades predators, but also guarantees the beaver access to their food larder, no matter what the weather. During winter, many ponds freeze over, but beaver can hold their breath for 15 minutes. So they just swim out of the lodge beneath the ice, grab one of the branches they stuck in the muddy bottom during the summer, and drag it back up into their warm, cozy living room. Beaver households include up to 10 members. Mom and dad who mate for life, their kits who stay with them until they're about 2, and up to 4 new babies born each spring. That's a lot of mouths to feed. And since adults eat about 2 pounds of food a day, it's a lot of sticks to stockpile for winter. When you're an excellent swimmer, but on land you're a tubby, tasty target for agile carnivores, waddling off into the forest to find fresh food is very risky. But by creating a pond, a beaver not only protects its lodge, it also expands its home pantry. By raising the water level, the beaver is now able to reach fresh new trees without having to leave the safety of his pond. When beaver chew on large trees, it's to knock them down so they can get at the smaller branches. And when he knocks down this alder, he's going to make it fall into the water. Like this one, where the beaver created his own swim-up snack bar. Beaver grab branches with their almost human-like hands so they can skin them, just like we eat corn on the cob. They only go after the cambium layer, just beneath the bark. That's the nutritious part, the living cells that produce the tree's xylem and phloem. The beaver pond also serves as family garden. These strict vegetarians establish a natural aquaculture operation that supports water lilies, cattails, pondweed, sedges, and other aquatic plants that the beavers will feast on during the salad days of summer. Before Europeans arrived, this whole continent was Beavlandia. Practically all of our rivers, streams, and lowlands looked and functioned much differently due to the engineering feats performed by hundreds of millions of these industrious rodents. It was a landscape with many more meandering timber-filled streams, extensive marshes, lush meadows, necklace ponds, and well-watered forests. Everything from insects to the largest mammals evolved with and depended upon this habitat. Beaver have always been Bullwinkle's best buddies. When trappers harvested beaver nearly to extinction to feed a fashion for felt hats, the entire ecosystem suffered. Major problems like wildfires, water pollution, erosion, lowered water tables, and diminished aquifers are all mitigated by intact beaver habitat. Early in the 20th century, a few folks realized this and began reintroduction efforts. The wildest was when Idaho Fish and Game drafted 76 beavers into the paratroopers and dropped them into central Idaho. All but one of the screaming beavers survived, and they successfully retook the Sawtooth Mountain Range. Here in western Washington, where beaver were almost completely wiped out, they're now very closely associated with our most important keystone species. Salmon restoration efforts, especially replanting shade trees along streams, have given beaver populations a boost by increasing their food supply, and the benefits flow both ways. Studies show that rivers with healthy beaver populations produce more salmon. What we didn't know until recently was that the beaver-salmon relationship is also working wonders all the way downstream. We joined Greg Hood on a survey of Otter Island in the Snohomish River Delta. Surrounded by salty sloughs, Otter is just the kind of place Greg was told couldn't support beaver. It's easy to see why it was so hard to believe beavers would settle here. At high tide, dams like this one are submerged by more than 3 feet of water. What good is an underwater dam? We landed here at low tide, so everything above sea level should either be muck or dry ground. But a peek over the top of the dam reveals an oasis. Beaver dams in these tidelands don't have to hold back all the water that comes in, just enough to create a system of small ponds and canals that stay wet when the rest recedes. While the Tulalip tribe's Todd Zaki takes precise survey measurements, we follow the beaver-built stream into the island's interior. There's no pond large enough to serve as a moat for a lodge, but we do see coyote tracks. So how does this beaver family stay safe from predators? One answer is likely the network of tiger traps hidden beneath the cattails that constantly threaten to swallow us, or at least break our legs. These tunnels were excavated by the beavers to use for transportation. When the tide rises, they're swimmable aqueducts. At low tide, they're camouflage subways. When we do find their lodge, it's massive. Okay, I'm on top of a beaver lodge right now. It's got to be 5 or 6 feet high. You see all these sticks that the beavers cut and put up there, and then it's packed it down with this mud like that. This thing is built like a concrete bunker. It would protect the beaver and its family from a grizzly bear. And even though they're subject to a huge tidal range that leaves the lodge high and dry for part of the day, the beaver's instinct was still to construct the entrances at the bottom.
Oh yeah, check it out.
At high water, these passageways are fully submerged. At low tide, they're kind of ominous little caves. If I was a coyote, I'm not sure I'd want to stick my nose in here. When he found these tidal beaver, Greg wondered if other creatures were taking advantage of all the infrastructure they built out here in the marsh, just like they would on the mainland. And when Greg sampled pools behind the dams at low tide, he struck ecological gold. Here in water that wouldn't exist without the beavers, he found tiny Chinook salmon, a threatened species that's in deep trouble throughout its range. And there weren't just a few. So none of this deep water habitat would be here without beavers. And these areas serve as a refuge for our endangered salmon. What have you found about salmon use of these areas?
There are 3 times the density of juvenile salmon in these low tide pools as there are in low tide shallows, if the channel didn't have beaver dams.
Wow, 3 times.
Right, so the juvenile salmon are spending a lot of time here at low tide. They're not getting flushed out into the river, so they have more time to feed, more time to grow, and they get bigger and survive better when they hit the ocean.
Wow. This is like a Head Start program for salmon right here.
That's right.
Thank you, Beaver. All the effort we've put into salmon recovery, and we didn't know that the whole time we've had these hidden, hardworking tidal beavers as important allies. And we still know practically nothing about the tidal beaver themselves. To find some answers, SeaDoc funded the first ever attempt to tag one of these salty beavers. With Greg and a team of wildlife experts from the Tulalip Tribe's Natural and Cultural Resources Department, we plunge into a tidal forest near Possession Sound. Loaded down with live traps and camera gear, it is very slow going. It's no wonder nobody knew about these beaver. This isn't the type of place you'd come on a family picnic. As beaver in western Washington repopulate places where they've lived for thousands of years, streams that once fed virgin forests now run through farms, backyards, and industrial zones. Beaver still need to cut down trees and create ponds to survive, but that can cause problems for their new human neighbors. So Dylan, it sounds like a lot of your job is getting these nuisance beavers trapped. What is that? What's a nuisance beaver?
Yeah, so we're only trapping these nuisance beavers. We're not trapping beavers that aren't causing any problems. And what really makes a nuisance beaver is they're just doing their normal beaver activities, but it's usually harming or damaging human infrastructure at the same time.
So it's our problem, not their problem.
Exactly, yeah. They're doing what they're gonna do anywhere, but it just happens to be in an area that it creates conflict with humans.
Okay, they're not out there doing drugs or things like graffiti. That. They're just being beavers close to people. Nuisance beaver that Dylan and his team capture are taken to the Mount Baker Snoqualmie National Forest. Before the Tulalip tribe began the program, beaver occupied only 35% of their historic territory at these sites. Now it's up to 90. In their new mountain homes, the beaver get right to work improving spawning and rearing habitat for 9 species of salmonids. It's so cool to realize that beaver removed from suburban backyards are helping the survival of the same baby Chinook that later swim downstream to attend their fishy finishing schools in habitat created by their cousins, the tidal beaver.
Made it.
Our initial trap is clamshell style. The idea is that the beaver will swim up, step on the trigger, and the trap will close like a clam, with the critter held safely inside as a precious pearl. There is some serious figuring involved.
It's going to be our first time ever trapping in an area that's tidally influenced.
The trap needs to be anchored deep enough so a beaver can swim up to it, but not so deep that when the water rises, it risks drowning the animal. To lure one into the trap, Devin uses the same smelly trick that smelly mountain men used back in the 1800s. Beaver are very territorial and mark their home ranges in a viscous potion called castoreum.
It's like decorating a Christmas tree.
The worst Christmas tree ever.
At a second site, Dylan rigs a classic box trap near the entrance to a lodge. Beaver are mostly nocturnal, so we set up a series of night vision cameras. When everything's ready, we carefully make our way out of the marsh. Late that night, one of the cameras sends out an alert. The stink bait is working. This one is curious about the scent, but doesn't seem too upset that there might be a rival in the area. He's just chill and appears very happy that we plucked him a nice midnight snack. Then one of the traps near the lodge signals. Beaver have very close-knit families, so when the Tulalip trap nuisance beavers, they make sure to take the entire clan and relocate them all together. For our research, we only need to tag one, and we'll be returning them to their family ASAP. The trap beaver's mate is a little frustrated. You can hear them talking. He's saying, "Oh, Brookie, what have you gotten yourself into now?" But a beaver's got to stay busy, so after a bit, he heads off to work. Early the next morning, we trek back into the marsh to check our traps. Well, hello, Brookie Beaver. She's beautiful. And just like Dylan says about almost all their captures, she's remarkably calm for someone who's being kidnapped. Before we can tag her, we want to make sure that Brooke is actually a girl. Because they hide their private parts internally, you can't tell a boy from a girl beaver just by sight, or even by feel. The only way to be certain of a live beaver sex is by using your nose. Dylan, as our expert beaver secretion sommelier, declares that she is indeed a she.
Yeah, that's female.
Once she's under, we carefully lift her onto the exam table, and wow, there's that fuzzy cheeseburger body. She looks like she's been squashed, but this is just how a big beaver looks when she's relaxed. We feed her pure oxygen and keep track of her vital signs, including temperature, to make sure all's well. She's doing great, and this gives us the unique opportunity to get a real close look at a live beaver. My, what big teeth you have! These back feet are like scuba fins with claws. And that famous beaver tail. It feels like old leather. There's no fur back here because the tail is a heat sink for when beavers need to cool down. The tag team finishes up quickly. Once she's alert and ready to go, we take her back home. Across the continent, beavers are helping everyone from farmers to fish solve water problems. They can turn eroded in size streams back into diverse functioning habitats. Their ponds support large populations of waterfowl, and their lush meadows feed our grazing game species. Here in the Tidal shrub forest, we now know that this special subset of salty beavers are helping us save threatened salmon. We've already destroyed about 95% of tidal beaver habitat in Washington state, and what remains is threatened by river levees and shoreline dikes. The tag data may say that we need to do even more to protect and restore this ecology that's so important to our salmon. North America's beaver rebound is a monumental success story, and as more folks learn how important they are, this story will get even better, both for us and for the beaver.
Hey, you're free. Go out the other way. Go out the other way. Turn around. Turn around, you're free. Got this. There you go.
We love being able to fund science that makes a difference. Hi, this is Joe Gaydos of the SeaDoc Society. Thanks for watching. Click over here to check out more episodes of Salish Sea Wild. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you can join Team SeaDoc on all our adventures. Thank you.